Well, hello everyone and welcome back to another video on ARK Survival Ascended. Today we're taking a look at 5 of the most recent Dino mods that got added to the workshop. All mods showcased in this video are free to play, so without any further ado, let's jump right into it. In number 5, Platosaurus from Phase Ascended Menagerie, made by RC Phase. Starting off the list with one of the more tame critters I have in my disposal today. Phase Platosaurus makes a lovely and improved return from ASE with a complete overall look and gameplay. This mod in general aims to make the vanilla experience of ARK just a bit more unique while staying true to the original formula, which makes ARK the dinosaur fantasy survival game we all know and love. And the Plateo does exactly that, being an early sauropod before they started to be our quarter pets and, well, giants. These fellas are on the rather small side of our creatures, around the same size as a parasaur, which comes in 4 different variants: a normal variant, a scorched variant, a aberrant variant, and a paleo variant. On most maps they can be found strolling through the jungles and redwoods, the canyons and greener parts of scorched earth, the green and blue zone on aberration, the city center, sung forest and desert oasis on extinction, and throughout the highlands, jungles and redwoods on Ragnarok as well. These small fellas are simple, straightforward knockout tames and prefer regular kibble to tame, but other options for a newly spawned in Beach Bob are of course base veggies or mejoberries. Their saddle then can be unlocked at level 25 and crafted in your inventory, which only needs 15 wood, 50 fiber and 80 hide. And this saddle acts like a modern pestle, allowing you to craft very specific resources on the run. Along that, it also has some nice moves. Left click to perform a claw/attack, which can be held down to keep on swinging. Right click for the head shove, which harvests loads of berries. C to pick up small creatures, with the largest you are able to carry being the Dialo. Spacebar for a small yet useful hop. Control plus spacebar to enable the turn in place, and spacebar plus C for an aesthetic roar. But that's not all. Your Plateo will also slowly turn narcoberries into fermented narcoberries, which can be used to tame herbivores and are twice as effective than mejoberries, and are also needed to craft new consumable items in your Plateo's inventory, those being Herbivore Delight. Once given to a herbivore, will grant them the Justice buff, which lasts for 2 minutes and grants them 10 HP regen per second, plus 20 speed, 50% increased damage, and 25% more resistance. The Adrenaline Pet Brew can be used on any dino and grants them 4 HP per second, 1 stamina, and 5 food per second, as well as boosting weight, damage, and resistance by 20% for 2 minutes. Medical Pet Brew, which acts like medical brews but for your tames, granting them a total of 512 health over 4 seconds, but it has a 60-second cooldown. Energy Pet Brew, pretty much the same really, but it grants 384 stamina regen over a duration of 4 seconds, as well as having a 1-minute cooldown. Speed Pet Brew, name says it all. This slushy delight gives your dino plus 25% speed for 80 seconds. You'll be simply zooming across the map using that. And last but not least, the Baby Food. This item gives your baby dinos a total of 30% imprint, disregarding how much they have matured, but it can only be used once, so pretty much like the Sanguine Elixir from the Desmodus in ASE. And yes, you can stack all of the brews on top of each other. Sadly, unmounted tames don't eat them on their own. If that would be the case, these brews would be useful to power your dino armies to challenge the Guardians, but you can feed them to your Dreadnoughts to aid in the fights of biblical proportions or to slay the hordes of corrupted heretics on extinction. Overall, I think the Plateo makes a fantastic addition to your ARK world, allowing you to have a bit more variety of early mounts to choose from, whilst also having some use in your mid to end game. Stomping in on the number 4 spot is the Zangarootherium, I hope I said that right. Made by Tristan, Rebecca, Clay and Mordekaiser, this giant bruiser of a mammal was actually made by these people within just a month. It was a unique challenge between these people to see if it would be possible, and well, you can see for yourself. They all did a phenomenal job to bring this creature to life, but please remember that this was a challenge after all and should not be considered the norm for them or any other mod dev out there. But let's get back to the creature. This colossal mammal is in a similar size roster as a Dinotherium, which can be found within grasslands, redwoods and swamp biomes, as well as Ragnarok Scotlands, the city on extinction, sung forest and desert dome. Within the desert canyons, badlands and oasis biomes, you can stumble across the scorched variants, and the aberrant variant can be found in the fertile chamber and luminous marshlands on aberration. And just look at this beautiful giraffe-like color pattern on them. Lastly, there is a devastating alpha variant which can spawn in any of the aforementioned biomes, and this thing looks menacing, sporting some more profound osteoderms, spikes and horn compared to the others, and is a serious threat to take on, but once killed will grant you some nice looking lootable loot. The Zangarootherium is a concussion tame like the rock golem or titanosaur, but unlike these two, you don't have to hit its head, but can indeed shoot at every part of its body using a cannon. For this I recommend to trap them with a simple trap shown on screen, or you are simply quick and your aim is good enough. Once knocked out they will still stand tall, but now you can feed them superior kibble, Archelon algae, base veggies or mejoberries. Also yes, the taming effectiveness won't get ruined by the cannonballs. Once tamed you can unlock the standard saddle at level 50 and craft it in a smithy. This saddle gives 50% weight reduction on all items, and you can find better saddles in the higher tier loot crates. Second is the armor saddle, which can be unlocked at level 60. It has more than twice the amount of armor, but slows you down by 15%, and can also be found in yellow and red supply crates. I gotta say though, this saddle looks badass, reminds me a lot of Lord of the Rings. And lastly, there is a platform saddle currently in the works as we speak. These giants have a plethora of attacks and abilities as well. Left click for a simple double stomp, which can harvest berries. Right click to swing that head around. C is the powerful Mega Stomp attack, which has a slight cooldown. Spacebar to taunt. This will grant you a buff similar to the rare flower one, luring every nearby dino to you, but also grants you 10% more damage plus bleeding resistance. X for the block stance. This will greatly drain your stamina, but also grants 60% more resistance for as long as you can hold it up. Left control to turn in place, and lastly, right control for a lovely roar. You can also sit down via the option wheel for a rapid regeneration buff. Isn't this big fella just cute when he sits there like that? The team behind this mod did a fantastic job with this one. I'm always down for more powerful mammalian or herbivorous powerhouses to fight off the challenges the ARKs have to offer. And this one certainly does the job right. On the number 3 slot we got a hell of a lot of bears from Mega's Bits and Bobs, made by Mega Honor and the Real Shadless. You always wanted a few more bears in ARK besides the Dire Bear and Polar Dire Bear? Well, Mega's Bits and Bobs gives you a total of 4 new bear species for you to get mauled by. I mean enjoy, of course. As well as a huge amount of newly added crops and craftable food items which give you new buffs, etc. Anyway, usually I would only cover 1 creature per slot, but these Weebi Bears plus 1 are just so similar. I just had to put them all on here. With all of them being so similar, but also playing an important part in their own role, Shadless did a wonderful job with implementing these large mammalian land predators. Starting off with the cutest one, the panda. These walking Oreos can be found within jungles and the Sung Forest. They are on the more friendlier side of our creatures, being a simple passive tame which requires raw bamboo, which you can get from your own bamboo crop, which you can only acquire with the help of a Mokatu, where you can craft any of the new seeds using any berry type in the game. But watch out when taming one, cause when attacked all nearby herbivores will rush to its aid. Once tamed, you can implant them up with the Ursus implant. Left click is a bite which harvests wood, right click for claw attack. C is just a roar and they can sit down as well. Also, having a huge rate reduction on wood makes them a perfect beaver or mammoth contender. And lastly, when your tamed panda gets attacked, it will grant a temporary 20% damage buff to nearby tamed herbivores, making them a unique addition to your herbivore army maybe. The black bear, on the other hand, is a very good early mount to new players, spawning within jungles, beaches, redwoods, the Sung Forest and the City on Extinction. Being a passive tame as well, requiring the same taming food as a dire bear, but once you manage to carefully tame this skittish garbage goober, you have a great early game mount and harvest companion, able to preserve veggies and honey longer, having some great rate reduction on stone and wood, immunity to bees, as well as harvesting honey with its primary bite, wood and hand harvestable resources with its claws, a nice little roar, and you got yourself something pretty good for your early beach bob days. Moving on to the larger boys, the grizzly is on the more aggressive side of Ursus, living primarily within redwoods but also snowy areas. This Arctis horribilis is a standard trank tame and eats either superior kibble, honey, raw mutton or prime fish. Once tamed, it needs the great Ursus implant to be ridden, and once ridden, this combat upgrade to the dire bear has a left click bite with a RG style heal, a right click claw slash, which gives enemies either a stun debuff or broken bones depending if they're dragged attack weight is higher or lower than 425. C is just a roar, and they can sit down as well. Also not losing any stamina when sprinting, plus being able to swim with high speeds and gaining the buff Ursine Fury when near unallied pack dinos makes them a true must-have upgrade to the OG bear of ARK. Lastly, there's the polar bear, which, as you might have guessed, spawns anywhere that is a snowy biome. Also being a trank tame and eating the same taming food as the Rex, they are not just a upgrade to the dire bear, but even the grizzly. Speaking of, they also need the great Ursa implant to be mountable. They also have a generic bite, a claw slash attack, which does the same as the grizzly. C for a fear roar, inflicting the mammoth intimidation to anything 600 drag weight or less, like the grizzly can. But they're more home in the water, having the highest swim speed of all the bears and dealing 50% more damage to all aquatic amphibious critters, lacking an oxygen stat, providing its rider with insulation and being immune to freezing, making them a good alternative for aquatic or Nordic explorations. And which of these bears you want to test out for a spin is up for you, really. Jumping in on the number 2 slot is the Tyranno Dominator, made by Tristan's Modding. This mod adds a terrifying Tyrannosaurid-like theropod to your game, the bloody vile menace, especially in its rather simple design. I personally just adore the tusk-like teeth in its lower jaw. This toothy tyrant has up to 6 variants, a normal one spawning within grasslands, mountains and snowy biomes, a scorched variant spawning in the canyons, badlands, scorched earth mountains and the desert on Ragnarok, the aberrant version which spawns in the green fertile chamber, the radioactive red zone and even the surface on aberration. Its extinction variant spawns in every part of the wasteland pretty much, and I gotta say that this one has to be the coolest one here. Just look at this design, just look at these colors. And the last 2 variants are the alpha variant, which spawns in every biome I mentioned, and also a powerhouse that is the Elder Tyranno Dominator, but more on him in a bit. First of all, how do you even tame them? Well, you gotta hit them in the head or jaw with the newly added cannon rocket that comes with the mod. Whenever they do their big boom roar attack, if you hit it right, it will display a dramatic hurt animation, which I am certain was based on the broken jaw Allosaurus from Dinosaur Revolution. Laugh it up! Each hit will do around 1000 torpor, but I would recommend using a very simple trap as shown on screen, because otherwise you're gonna get knocked around like crazy. I do know that they wanted to have a grenade launcher, which would have been used to knock these fellas out, but some glitches here, some bugs there, means they are currently in the fixing state. Once you knocked it out, it won't take any damage for 60 seconds, and you have to feed extraordinary kibble, mutton, etc. You can then unlock its saddle at level 75, as well as all of its armor attachments. Left click is a powerful bite, right click the explosive roar, which not only stuns creatures but also delivers some nasty knockback. C is a claw slash, which only hits once and deals less damage than the primary bite. X is a cosmetic roar. G to turn in place, left control for seismic attack, which flings a pile of rubble towards your enemies, and this actually deals a good chunk of damage. Spacebar for a jump, not just any jump, but one like a damn reaper. And of course, they can sit via the option wheel for some rapid health regeneration. Now let's talk about that sweet armor it got. Like most of Tristan's creatures, this one also has some nice looking armor attachments, making it look like something straight out of Lord of the Rings or Warhammer. The legs give you 5% damage reduction, the helm 10% damage reduction, arms 5% damage reduction, and the tail attachment gives +5 extra damage. Lastly, I did want to talk about the Elder variant, which you can summon with the spawner item, but it requires 15 Alpha Tyranno Dominator teeth. This thing will spawn at max dino level and only gains levels into damage. I do think it's a nice idea, giving you some loot when killed in an actual difficult boss fight, but if I may add some criticism, it feels like so many mod developers nowadays just try to copy the savage aggro with their boss dinos, but they execute it not as well as Garuga did back in the day. But maybe that's a topic for a different video. All in all, I think the Tyranno Dominator is a fantastic addition to your ARK world, so go ahead and try it for yourself. And finally, getting to the number 1 slot, we have Blue Sucos Oxalia from the mod Isle of Myths. I was hyped when this guy was teased, not gonna lie, I just love Spinosaurids. The ARK Spino is already an amazing creature, and this one is a pretty good alternative to the OG giant river dweller of ARK. And similar to the Spino, Oxalia spawns primarily within swamps, rivers and lakes. Sadly, they do not have any kind of different variants, like a aberrant one would look pretty cool, not gonna lie. but perhaps that will happen one day. Anyway, this massive Spinosaurid is a standard knockout tame. Similar to the Spino, it will run away once high enough on torpor, but well, for that it's a bit too slow. Anyway, once knocked out, it will then require exceptional kibble, raw mutton, raw prime fish meat, or raw prime. The Oxalia saddle can then be unlocked at level 75 and requires a few more resources than the Spino saddle does. Left click is a normal bite attack, right click for a lovely roar. And C for foot stomp. I do know that it has some attacks that only the wild one can do, but that's being worked on as you watch this video. And just looking at the stats, they have up to 1200 base HP. That's more than the Spino, actually pretty close to the Rex's health. It also has slightly higher base damage than the Spino, with its primary bite attack dealing the same as the Spino's claw swipe, and its foot stomp dealing 85 base damage with some nice knockback. However, in water they do seem a bit slower than the Spino, or maybe that's just me. Probably a drawback when you make it more of a tank really, but overall I do believe that these guys, once fully fixed up, would be a perfect addition to the Rex tier roster of ARK and your vanilla balanced world. And I could see this thing, even in this state, being a good alternative for boss fights later on. Some last thoughts though, I would like to see it gaining a hydration buff like its smaller cousin, or perhaps a strength boost whenever it kills aquatic targets. But besides that, I do really like this one. Even its simple KO tame, I do think it's nice to have more unique taming methods on modded creatures, but sometimes it's not a bad thing to keep things a bit more basic. And there you have it, folks, just a small video on some of the newest modded creatures that were brought to the ARK world. I do want to know which one of these you like the most, but since that's all, I hope you have a wonderful day. Do not forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. My name is ARK Rector, and I see you later. Goodbye.